Welcome to episode 347 of the Shared Security Podcast. And today we're talking about how exploding pagers may be the next big thing in supply chain attacks. So we'll be talking about the exploding pager attack that has apparently killed several Hezbollah operatives and injured over 2,700 people in Lebanon. And we'll also talk about why this is not a cyber attack. And everyone should stop worrying if their phones are going to explode. Well, I mean, if you are targeted by a nation state, your phone may explode, but not for the reasons that you think.
Right.
So, and then we'll talk about some new changes by Instagram, which will default all teen accounts to private for users under 18. And now offer parents more control. I say control in quotes, air quotes, over their teens' Instagram accounts. So we'll see where that goes. But joining me for these stories and more is my wonderful co-host, Kevin Johnson. Coughing co-host, apparently.
I'm just dying.
Yeah.
It's no big deal.
He's dying here.
Yeah, but my pager is
live on the podcast. No.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I mean, if you have a pager, I would worry that you're a drug dealer or a terrorist operative.
I don't know. I've got comments.
I know you do. I know. So this is obviously broken news because, and I say broken because not breaking, because by the time this is released, this will be old news at this point. Hopefully everyone knows what's going on with this story. But yesterday, this was announced that there were a lot of explosions happening in Lebanon, and apparently it was these pagers that were exploding of Hezbollah operatives. So unfortunately, I looked on Twitter, and of course I saw, this is a cyber attack. This is batteries exploding, and this could happen to anybody. And as more information came out, and today, of course, we have reputable news sources reporting that these were most likely explosive devices, or explosives put in devices in I would say, one of the most impressive supply chain attacks I've seen. What do you think, Kevin? I mean,
I want to preface this with, I'm not saying I know. Because unlike many security experts on Twitter, I am willing to acknowledge the fact that I have no idea what blew up pagers. And I am not all of a sudden an expert in explosives. While I have made thermite, made napalm.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think there's two things I think that are important to take from this. One, this is not a widespread 0-day vulnerability in pagers from the 1990s. Because that's true. Even the BBC said this was a 0-day. No, not. This doesn't count as a 0-day because somebody was able to inject hardware into a device and then leverage that. Two, I think this is another good example of how fast misinformation spreads.
Oh my gosh.
Because the number of people who immediately jumped on the bandwagon of phones are going to start exploding and, be careful with your cell phone and what have you. That was fascinating to me. I don't know another word for it. The people that jumped on this and said, obviously, this is how they did it. I think my favorite one was reminiscent of the DHS test of the exploding generator.
Oh, yes.
Which was the first time I was ever on CNN. That sounds weird, but it was funny to me that the two were, right? Is that, well, obviously, the one that I saw that made me laugh the most was that this was a 0-day that leveraged the vibration of the pager to shake the pager to the point where the battery would explode.
Wow.
And I read it and I was just like, what? And it was this person putting it forward like this is a problem. And, anything with haptic feedback, like a a cell phone or a pager or your PS5 controller. Right? Like this should be a worry. And I just, when I read it, this was actually the first thing I saw about the exploding pagers. I assumed the entire thing was BS. And I don't mean their explanation of the haptic feedback, because that obviously was BS. But I actually doubted the explosions themselves until I started seeing other reports, and it just sounded like a science fiction thing. Like, we shook the pagers so much it exploded. I don't know, man. This is an impressive, and I want to be very clear. I'm not discussing the politics behind this.
Nope.
I'm not discussing whether this was a crime or terrorist attack or what. None of that. I don't want to get involved in that. I have my opinions. They're my opinions, and they'll piss off somebody, which is pretty much all of my opinion. But the two parts of this, and I'm stuck on two today. The two parts of this that I think are impressive. One, getting into the supply chain of an organization and pushing this out, right? And what part of that to me was the pinpoint accuracy of what they did, because now, of course, we don't know yet, but everything I've read has stated that everybody who was killed or who had an exploding pager was a known member of Hezbollah. Now, I can't validate that. I can't.
That's what I'm reading too.
Yeah. Yes, other people were injured. Yes, right. But I'm focusing on the idea that you somehow got into the supply. Like, this was not I went into a pager manufacturer and I just randomly replaced pagers with explosives. This was right.
Very targeted.
Very targeted. That part is fascinating to me. The second part that I thought was interesting was the idea that they drove people from cell phones to pagers, because what was it, in October, Israel killed a leader in Hezbollah, and it was widely assumed that they were tracking due to cell phones, that they had access.
So they got rid of cell phones,
right?
Yeah,
and the leaders came out and said, "Get rid of cell phones, switch to pagers, do all this kind of stuff." And I don't remember who it was this morning. I saw somebody talk about this being the Enigma moment, right? In World War II, the Allies cracked the Enigma code and were able to read the Germans' encrypted messaging. Yeah. Fascinating. And there's this moment where you have to decide, okay, we have this intelligence, and we're able to continue to get more intelligence. But if we act on this intelligence, this one piece of information, it is very likely that we will burn the idea that we can crack the Enigma code, right? Like, the only way we could have gotten this intelligence is by doing that. It'll burn it. If Israel is who did this, and that's widely assumed to be true, I don't believe Israel has claimed,
they haven't said they did.
Right? Israel burned their intelligence, right? Like, they burned the fact that they know that they were able to do this. They burned it in one widespread attack. And the question becomes, how do they leverage that? And I'm not, again, not getting involved in good, bad, evil, ugly, whatever. Just, that's interesting, right? You had this level of access, the ability, if it's accurate that the pagers went to Hezbollah members, right? Like, I don't know. That's a wow to me. I will reiterate what you said. Unless you are targeted by a nation state, it is unlikely that this is a threat vector you need to worry about.
Yeah. And actually, there were people, I know I hate saying on Twitter, but people that are known as explosives experts, right? Because they have this background, or they are an academic or somebody that studies this stuff. Lithium batteries, like thinking of your iPhone or your mobile phone, they're more likely to catch fire than actually explode. So what we saw in Lebanon, these were actual explosions. There's video showing devices actually were smoking and then exploding and then causing injury to people around them. Like, that is not a lithium ion battery that explodes. No. So my personal take is, like, this is just impressive from the amount of logistics that this type of thing would take So I'm interested to know, like, okay, so was this at the manufacturer where these devices were manipulated? Was it after the fact, like during delivery? Like, there obviously has had to been some, like, was the company even aware that these devices were being manipulated? I mean, there's so many questions, but I think for our listeners, like, if you're worried about your phone exploding and some massive attack happening, this could happen to anybody. That's not the case.
No,
this is a very targeted, extremely targeted thing, and people shouldn't worry unless you happen to be a target of a nation state for whatever reason.
And if you are a target of a nation state,
yeah,
you're probably not getting this news from us.
No, you're probably not watching this podcast.
You might be.
I mean, maybe.
This should just not be a surprise to you.
Yeah, exactly. So fascinating. We're going to definitely, I think I posted this, I made a comment on LinkedIn that this is one that I think we'll be all talking about for a while as more things come out about it, but fascinating, just absolutely insane.
This is definitely going to be added to a lot of slide decks.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of marketing BS and hype around this,
yes, we are.
Which is unfortunate, but this kind of it's par for the course, unfortunately. Are you still relying on outdated managed file transfer tools? In today's world, the security of your sensitive data is more critical than ever. Introducing Kiteworks, the most secure and modern managed file transfer platform available. Kiteworks is audited yearly and continuously monitored by certified third-party assessors. With an ongoing bounty program, regular penetration testing, and one-click appliance updates, Kiteworks minimizes vulnerabilities like no other. Many traditional MFT solutions can't compare to the level of security and functionality Kiteworks provides. But that's not all. Kiteworks offers a world-class secure file sharing and email platform. Easily send automated or ad hoc files through fully integrated shared folders and email. Administrators can manage policies in a unified console and create custom integrations with their comprehensive REST API. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today.
Hey everyone, it's Scott Wright here, CEO of ClickArmor and of course co-host of the Shared Security podcast. If your organization uses boring cybersecurity training, and even if you're using live phishing simulations, your people may be vulnerable to being tricked by things like phishing and social engineering threats. In my experience, there's often a real belief among security management that employees actually understand, learn, retain knowledge, and know how to apply the guidance that they get from clicking through some static content or watching a video, and how to apply that to live simulations or even real cyber attacks immediately after taking the training. But in reality, the actual gap is quite large, and management is making a whole bunch of bad assumptions. So how do you actually get people to retain knowledge and be ready? They need engaging, interactive training with a chance to practice what they've learned, and a way to do that regularly with emerging threats. That's where ClickArmor adds unique value. If you want to go beyond compliance checkboxes and really build a resilient team, then reach out to us at clickarmor.ca and get a free demonstration of the platform and your own trial site. You'll see how our interactive gamified security platform lets employees build their confidence in facing real-world phishing and social engineering threats. And you'll discover how easily you can get valuable employee proficiency data before you spend time and effort on live simulations. And thanks for listening to the Shared Security Podcast.
Let's jump to some lighter news. I don't even know if this is considered lighter news anymore, but
I don't know.
Instagram is defaulting all teen accounts to private for users under 18 across the world. And also they're adding some new safety features, including restricting private messages and limiting sensitive content, while giving parents more control over their teens' social media usage. So things like time limits. I think specifically for kids under 16, there's much more restriction, but it doesn't solve the problem of teens lying about their age. which I know in this article, they kind of called that out. Yeah. And of course, the answer to that is Meta says, well, we have technology that's going to be able to prevent that from happening. And I just don't see that as I don't know. Kids are always going to lie about their age and find ways around things. I don't. What do you think, Kevin? Do you think this is really going to make an impact?
Yes. I think it's going to cut down on the underage influencers' ability to easily create accounts that are public. I encourage social media networks to take into account their impact on the young. But I also feel that you're very easily getting close to causing problems for First Amendment stuff. Now, in this case, this is not driven by any legislation as far as I know. So the First Amendment doesn't count. Private entities are able to control speech how they want to.
Yes.
I think this goes back down to it's not going to move the needle much. On top of not moving the needle much, it opens up a door to say, hey, we're able to en masse make changes to people based on some qualifier. And while we know that is possible, proving that they can do it effectively opens up to government interference. And I don't like that. That is where, so I look at this and say, you are mostly marketing that you care about kids. That's been proven time and time again that Meta does not, right? You're using this as marketing, and your marketing is not going to move the needle, yet you are opening us up to other problems in the future. The other issue, and I've said this, we've said this many times, is that you are providing a false sense of privacy and security to parents. If parents think, okay, if my kid starts an Instagram account, Meta will fix it and cause it to be private. It is allowing the parent to push responsibility to somebody else. And I don't like that. I would rather Meta provide in-depth understanding. Like, hey, when a kid joins, right, push out explain why the privacy settings are the way they are. Explain, do a level of education rather than this rah, we're making them private. We've solved the problem, because we know they haven't solved the problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is also a response, I think, to lawsuits that are happening just over the last couple of years. There's been more studies, shown that the social media is damaging kids' mental health, and there's all these side effects. And this, we've always been saying this, but since we were we started this podcast
about social media
when social media was really just starting to take off. And I think over the years, we've seen just more and more concern about especially young kids having access to social media, kind of the damage. And it's not all bad and doom and gloom, right?
No, there's good.
There's obviously the good that comes out of it. But I think, to your point, Kevin, we all need to, I think, take a different approach of educating parents and then them actually talking to their kids about how they use social media. And these are difficult conversations that just need to happen. I think parents just need to do more of those conversations with their kids to actually understand how they are using it, who they're connected with. And I'm just grateful I don't have young kids anymore these days, because I thought it was bad when we were raising our kids, because our kids are about the same age. And, I really have a lot of empathy for parents these days with young kids, because it's really hard. It is really, really hard to control this stuff.
Another thing that I thought of for this is that by making the kids' teen account a teen account, I'm curious as how that is represented in the searches and other type of things, because are you actually flagging these accounts to predators? Right. So if I was a predator and I searched, is there some way to determine that it's not just an account marked private, that's a teen account, right? Are you flagging them? And I don't know. That is an idea not oh, I know this problem.
Yeah. And then that, and plus the data harvesting aspect.
Yep.
Like, I mean, this is the reason these companies are in business, is to collect data about everybody that's using the social network. And they obviously are playing the long game of, okay, so a 16-year-old creates an Instagram account. Eventually they're going to turn 18.
Yep.
We will convert that to a regular account, therefore getting all of that data.
Yep.
But I don't know. It's a fine line that these companies are riding. And
well, and as from experience and from the things we've looked at, that when somebody has a private account, they will post more things that are sensitive because they assume the system will hide it for them, that it'll keep it private. That is why the scam of, hey, I've compromised your machine and I know you're looking at porn and I've got video and I'm going to tell everybody, works. Right. So I would expect that the teens are going to post more because they have a private account.
Right.
And that means the data collection is worse.
But those types of scams are not going to stop.
Nope.
In fact, they'll probably increase because now those people are going to change their tactics when they go after kids. And it may actually make things worse in some situations because you do trust the social network more now because of this private account feature.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Exactly. Well, I think that's all we have time for today, Kevin.
I think so too.
Great discussions.
Always fun to talk to you.
You know, not a great time to buy pagers, but you know, if you're in the market for one, we'll there's brands you probably should not buy. But with that, thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, stay safe, stay secure, and stay private. Thanks for watching or listening to this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts, follow us on X @SharedSec, and help support the podcast by joining our Patreon to get ad-free episodes, bonus content, and many more exclusive supporter-only benefits. Visit sharedsecurity.net/supporter for more details.